3, 2. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was seeing if there was something I could rise this thing up on, but no.
You,
This
you
is just
can't
the,
you can't
I'll be
like
here.
tilt your phone.
If I tilt my phone, I mean, no. Let me see. What's this going to look like? How's that?
Totally fine.
This looks okay. It looks okay on your end?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That works. Great.
Okay. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. Today we have Dr. Eric Goodman, the founder of Foundation Training. I'm definitely top 3 most excited podcasts I've ever had on the show because his work has directly allowed me to sit again and start to enjoy life again and be well on my recovery with my back injury. So, Dr. Eric Goodman, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on here. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and your work and how it all got started?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they say sitting is the new smoking, so you're sitting again, which I guess I kind of apologize for. But, to start with that, my work is the stuff that allows people to do whatever they really need to do with their body, whether it's sitting still, getting work done, or being a badass athlete, getting through some really intense moments of torque and flexion and extension without blowing out segments of your spine. And that's basically what foundation training has sort of become over its now 10-year duration, is a broad spectrum physical improver for people with back injuries, hip injuries, knee injuries, people that want to stay active, are willing to do the work, and are willing to pay attention to the subtleties of our work, which, as you've seen, there's a lot of subtleties. You have to pay attention. You have to really pay attention to the things we're talking about. So foundation training is, at its root, posterior chain integration, meaning the back side of the body, the muscles of the hamstrings, the calves, the glutes, the back muscles, the lat muscles, even the traps, the neck muscles. We have to teach them to work together instead of isolating them into their compartmentalized movements and absorptive patterns. We have to teach the big, large muscles of the back of the body to participate in pretty much every movement we do, from a stability feature at the multifidus level to a power feature at the glute and hamstring and lat level. The odd thing is that most of our bodies are very willing to get there, very, very able to get there. And there's a couple small mistakes that we kind of accidentally make. We wear shoes a little too often that put our heels, a half inch or so higher than our toes, and that really changes the biomechanics of the ankle and thus the knee and hip and back. We sit very often, and sitting is not the new smoking. I don't agree with that statement.
Worse.
No, it's not worse either. It's because it can be really good for you too, and it is a natural human position. It's just we shouldn't stay there. So it's not that sitting is the new smoking. It's just a biomechanical position that if you're lazy about it, it's not that good for you. That's it. That's the whole thing. Sitting. It's not bigger than that. It's not dangerous. It's just, don't sit on your ass too much. It might become bad for you to stay put. If that's where your body learns to live a majority of its life, maybe it's not that good for you. But
I want to pause you for a second.
Go ahead.
How did you get into I read your book and you had an injury, right? So before we get into all of this amazing stuff, how the heck did you figure this stuff out? What made you interested in this world anyway?
Injuries.
Uh-huh.
That's it. I mean, injuries are the greatest teacher. Sensitivity is the greatest textbook you'll ever have if you start to pay attention and you learn anatomy and things along with it. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I was educated at the highest level of biomechanics, really. And from there, especially spinal biomechanics and pelvic biomechanics, and what happens at the breakdown of each of those spinal levels when things are not accurate, what inefficiencies occur, and those inefficiencies yield symptoms. So you start to understand the symptoms that people feel from a very centralized root level. In my own injuries, which started around 19, 20 years old, and my back would start going out. I was playing water polo at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I was lifting a lot of weights, and I was big, man. I was 19, 20, 21 years old. I was like strong. I was trying 100 different sports while I was focusing on one sport that I was never going to be good enough at to become like anything other than that player at that moment. And I was sitting, taking pre-med classes, taking basic science classes, sitting for lunch, sitting for dinner, sitting for coffee, sitting in class, going to the gym and doing seated shoulder presses and seated bicep curls, doing leg presses and squats with shitty biomechanics. And, eventually my back broke down because I tried to do it well. I tried to increase my weight and I didn't have the stability yet. So fast forward from like 19 to about 25, 26. Now I'm like a year and a half into chiropractic school, where the sitting becomes exponentially greater because you're learning a lot more. You're learning all day long, every day, 5 days a week. Then you're studying what you learned on the weekends and at night. And then you're talking with your friends, very, very often, very actively, actually, about what you're learning. You're tutoring each other. It's a very collective community process to become a chiropractor. I hope I get the opportunity to talk about the incredible education that chiropractors have the opportunity to have if they take it. But who knows? Maybe that happens more and more. Maybe people start investigating a bit more how much you actually can learn. But we sat 8, 9, 10 hours a day in school. I mean, you're learning a lot, and learning is some person talking at you. That's it. Then you go into a lab and you practice adjustments on each other, and you're really bad at them, and you're doing them frequently, which is a bad recipe for your back and your joints and your shoulders and your elbows. You're practicing on other students with other students, and you're getting adjusted by other students, learning on one another, and you create some hypermobilities around you. And my hypermobility was L4, L5, L5, S1. My body naturally tried to protect that hypermobility by creating rigidity. And that's the process of degeneration and herniations and adding things called osteophytes and adding a little bit of bone density to protect a joint that's trying to move where it shouldn't, or at least it's not stable when it does move. So my body went through that natural process, and what that yields is additional symptoms at that level. It yields additional nerve compression symptoms that started to express as problems into the legs, constant pain into the back, and just weakness, weak legs. I was strong, and all of a sudden I was feeling weaker. So I started going to the doctor, and around 27, I was diagnosed with something that needed fusion surgery to repair. At 27, which is a big fucking joke. Like, no, you don't know what we're doing. You don't understand what we're doing. You don't understand what you're doing to a young man's otherwise healthy body by fusing the base of his spine to the top of his pelvis. You don't understand what you're doing for the next 50 to 75 years of that person's life, So I didn't do it. And I started going to yoga, and I read Craig Liebenson's book, which I don't remember what it's called, but if somebody wants to understand a great overview of rehabilitative techniques from the Yonda school of thought and a lot of other really intelligent schools of thought, Craig Liebenson's books are great. And I read those books. And I didn't have the capacity to understand enough to get that to fix me at that time. And my weak point kept getting weaker. And my weak point was where that instability was, which is the juncture of my pelvis and my spine.
Me too.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody. That's not true. A lot of people, though.
Uh-huh.
So I started going to these yoga classes, and I would feel relief from ranges of motion. In fact, there's a sort of a law in biophysics, which is mechanoreception, which is movement, will block nociception, which is pain, but only temporarily. And I was having that experience. I would go to yoga, I would walk, I would do these things, and I'd be good for a few hours. And then it would start to come back, and the severity through the increased ranges of motion and the increased friction were not, the severity of the symptoms was going up, even though I could get temporary relief. And that's because I was not strong enough to stay in place. I was not strong enough to allow the bridge of communication that is required for the spine to stay stable as the hips move. If my hips tried to move, they would stop moving, and my spine would take the grunt of movement because my hips didn't have it yet. They were used to sitting and staying put. So what foundation training ultimately became was the slow and steady evolution of the first few yoga classes that started to help me, in which I would do a chair pose, but I would extend the hell out of my lower back. I would extend it as hard as I could until it fatigued and burned and cramped and burned.
What's chair
And then
pose? Like
a
some
chair
like,
pose, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
it looks like a crappy founder.
Okay. With the knees, with like the knees bent and the hips
The
and the
knees are bent and coming
right?
forward, and it's
Yeah.
very often
Okay.
quadricep driven, and it's very often overarched at the spine. It's not what I teach anymore. It's very, very different. But my first sequence was called a modified sun salutation, and the
Okay.
modifications were all extension based modifications at the spine that led to proximal hamstring contractions at the top edges of the hamstrings where they insert to the pelvis, like a lever that levered the spine up instead of the spine having to do the movement. And I learned my weak point. I found it. I'm very lucky in resilience and kind of stubbornness. I've always been very, very much both of those. And I treated this injury like I treated a lot of things in my life, which was like, nah, we're going to get, like, watch.
Yeah.
You know, well, let's see what I can do.
Victory. Right?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Victory, not so much victory. It's relentless, man.
Really? Yeah.
It's not a battle. It's a dance.
Mm.
And you got to keep floating, man. You got to keep going. You got to, it's not victory. It's not a fight. It's kind of an acceptance. Let me brush this text off my phone. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I say that because I've worked with so many chronic patients now in my life that I don't think it's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's cancer or diabetes or Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis or back pain or hip pain or plantar fasciitis or a stroke. You know, it's not a fight, man. It's a lesson and a learned communication that you got to get so damn good at that it doesn't have a chance to try to fight you, because it'll win.
Interesting.
Like, so foundation training is the acceptance of weak points in the sense that you're going to stay in them until they're strong. And you're going to create these isometric poses around them that when you can do those poses well, it's because your muscles have integrated. And they are going to be very difficult until you can, as you've probably experienced. You're going to find places in your body that you really haven't felt tension before. Like, what is that? Why is my lower back on fire? But also, I'm feeling the discrepancy between my legs, and I can alter that discrepancy with subtle movements of my hips or my feet. And as you get better and better at the work, you really can. You can make massive, massive shifts to how your body's absorbing its own mass against gravity. And the goal of foundation training overall is to make your body absorb its mass within the muscle chains as it's intended to against its own weight. It's as much real estate and surface area as you can find muscularly becomes the absorptive wall and barrier or that gravity hits. Because gravity is not straight up and down. It's your mass. Your mass is all directions and it moves all directions and it has to be protected in all directions. And the way to do that is to go outward, not inward, to expand from the torso, expand from the rib cage, lengthen at the spine and abdomen, widen at the back of the rib cage, make surface area on the bottom of the foot, make your footprint really wide and really long. Things like that make a tremendous impact on not only pain relief, but muscular connection, which yields higher metabolic rate, higher caloric burn, more perpetual strength, more coordinated movement, better proprioception, and as people get older, much better balance, less likely to fall over and break your shit. So important, man. I can't I can't tell people enough about it. And not just foundation training, but the lessons in thinking of healthcare and fitness as proprioceptive lessons and health lessons, not a battle, not a fight, not a grind, not something just to get through, but something to really understand very well. And, you know, it's kind of our duty to understand our health a little bit.
Totally. I think I have a little bit of a, when I say victory, I don't mean it like a war or a battle. I kind of mean it like there's this, once you're in that position of having such an intense injury, there's a few different pathways you can take, right? One is like, I'm going to get to the root of this and I'm gonna like, I guess not win, but like I'm not going to have problems, right? Or I'm not going to allow this to take over my life, right?
There you go.
And the
That's
other
very
path,
different.
yeah,
Those are really
yeah,
different things. I'm
yeah.
not going to have problems and I'm not going to let it take over my life, are totally different
Versus
statements.
winning a war, right? Oh,
Well,
those
no,
two are different things.
those two are very different.
Right,
One of them is I'm not going to have problems, meaning like I can't deal with problems, so they better not come.
right, right.
The other one is, oh, I'm going to have problems because I'm human.
Totally.
So I better get some skills and some abilities and some, not only the skills to deal with them, but the sensitivity to know that they're coming as early as possible.
Totally. Yeah. Love that.
That's what I'm talking about with it.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's not stuff I came up with, man. That's what I've watched people do. You know, I'm 38 years old. I've been doing this since I was 27 and I haven't stopped. I've met a lot of people. I've had the luxury of working with a tremendous amount of patients over the years.
mhm.
And damn, it's pretty rad.
Yeah.
You know, people
And
don't need to fight. You need to, you're learning an instrument. You're learning a language. You don't battle a language. You don't
wow,
battle an instrument. You learn it. You become connected
love
to it. You
that.
master it, perhaps.
Love that. Totally. And that's such a similar world to detox and chronic health. The message that I share is like we're not fighting toxins, because if you're in a fight, your immune system is automatically weak, right? Because you're in the state fight or flight. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight makes you weak over time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's really interesting if I were to think about my body as a dance, like dancing with the feedback of my body. Right now, my body's angry at me because I cannot get to the root of my physical issues. So, yeah. Um, okay, so
You got a doc on the line, man. Talk
all
to me.
right. All right, cool. Let's make this about me because I think my audience will enjoy that anyway. And I've been
I
talking
have
about
no
my back.
interest in talking about me.
All right, cool.
Talk about you.
Okay, so this will be like a therapy session combined with a YouTube video. Perfect. So I 2 years ago I had a little skateboarding accident and I herniated my L5S1. It was only like 5 millimeter herniation, but I couldn't walk. I literally couldn't even get off the ground. It must have been years of jujitsu that was and faulty firing patterns that actually led to that injury because it was such a mild skateboarding accident. Anyway, I spent a month not being able to walk. Then I spent 13 months not being able to sit. I went to 6 different chiropractors. Um, Finally found your stuff and someone. I went to a muscle therapist who stretched out my lower back muscles. They were like spasming and tight, and he stretched them out with a specific technique. I did a video with him recently, and his name's Toby Hansen. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I
But
haven't, but good for him to give
after
him a mention.
what's that?
I
Make
said,
sure.
yeah, it's good to give him a mention.
Yeah, totally. So after foundation training and him, I was literally able to sit again. And I've been sitting for hours and hours and hours. The thing that is left over that is I've done so many different things is my SI joint. My SI joint hurts all day, every day. It's yelling in my face all day, every day. I've done
It hurt
stem
right now.
cells. It hurts right now. It hurts
Can
right now.
you put the camera in a position where I can see your feet for like 2 seconds?
Yes. Hold on. I need to unplug this thing before we do that.
So first and foremost, it's not like a fix. It's not like, oh, you're going to be better forever. Just make this change. It's
Right.
that I'm going to teach you how to strengthen your medial hamstring insertion point that goes up to the middle of the pubic symphysis and allows your hip to spin inward. And if that's not able to spin inward, your SI joint, it's on the right side.
Yes, on the right side.
Yeah. Okay. You can even, I mean, you can see how nobody else is going to be able to see it. Put the, I'm not even going to say what it is. Put your hip back up. So can you kick your shoes off so you can actually feel what I'm talking about?
I have Ultra Torrens. I don't know if the types of shoe matter. They're like zero drop shoes and have orthotics.
I want you to be able to put your feet on the ground.
Okay.
So you can feel the points of contact that we're talking about.
Oh, totally. No, I was just saying my shoes in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think zero drop is pretty good, but who knows what the science is going to prove down the line. My expertise is like barefoot ranges of motion, and I use that as corrective processes. I use that to, we'll do it right now. Okay. So there's 3 points of contact on the foot that I teach people are the centralizing connection points, sort of the tripod that the foot has to be most spread into. That's the ball joint of the big toe. So not the big toe itself, but the joint where it hits the ground.
Okay.
Press that into the ground. Press the
not the tip of the toe, just in the middle of the
joint.
toe. Okay.
Where the toe connects to the foot.
Okay.
Like your footprint.
Okay.
Okay. Now the outside edge, the ball joint of the pinky toe, press that into the ground and keep that big toe joint connected.
Okay.
And then press the heel into the ground on both feet. So it's like a triangle that's going outward from the heel.
Outward from the heel.
Yeah. So the heel to the outward edge of the big toe.
Uh-huh.
To the outward edge of the pinky toe.
Are my hips going out? Am I pushing like torsion or no?
Not yet. Not yet. Don't worry about that yet.
Okay.
So those are the 3 points of contact.
Yeah.
The next thing is we're going to make your hips line up by making the outside edge of your feet parallel.
Okay.
So this is why we have mats like this that have these hash marks.
Okay.
Can you see my feet right now?
No, a little lower. Yeah, now I can.
See how my feet are? So if you look at the line, it goes from the heel to the pinky toe.
Yeah.
That's where I'm parallel.
Yeah.
That little bit of internal rotation is what I'm talking about.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Before I started your work, I was like this, and then I trained.
That's what, yeah.
Like this.
So the purpose of this, I'm going to teach you with a very subtle hip hinge.
Okay.
You're going to put your hands on your hip joint, like you're just standing as low on the hip joint as you can.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. A little lower, 2 more inches down. There you go. So that's your actual hip joint. That's where your hip kind of goes into the pelvis, not the high hip joint where you can feel the wing, but the low hip joint where you can feel the leg bones move.
Okay.
You're going to feel those move inward towards each other as you pull your hips back into a hip hinge. Like your pockets are trying to move towards each other at the front, just a little bit. It's called internal circumduction, internal rotation. So you're just drawing the hips back a couple inches, feeling the hips glide inward at the front. Can you feel that?
Towards you.
Yes. So the hips are rotating in as the tailbone moves back.
Okay. Tailbone moves back. So
you know what a hip hinge is, yeah?
Kind of. I don't know.
So you know the founder position?
Yeah. This.
Yes, that's a hip hinge.
Okay.
As you do that, do you feel how when you did that, your shoulders moved outward in external rotation?
Yeah.
Okay, your hip joints do the opposite. Your hip joints move inward in internal rotation.
Got it.
And they try to make the feet look towards each other just a little bit as your hips draw back. And the connection point is the big toe joint.
Okay.
So see if you can keep that connected as the hips draw back. And then we'll go from there.
Am I going into founder?
Yep, go into a founder.
Wow.
Feel the hip joints.
My hips this way.
Yes. And it should feel like the glute muscles fire a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now hold that for a moment and just listen for a moment.
Okay.
So the way we're going to fix the sciatic situation here is you're going to pivot that right foot inward just a little bit more from the hip joint. So the hip is going to rotate the foot in another inch or so. That's all.
Hold on. You said sciatic. You meant SI joint, right?
Same thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Same region, same approach.
Okay.
We're going to create space at the joint where the sacrum and the pelvis meet.
Got it. Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah. So the big toe joint is going to be moving inward towards the opposite foot as the other one does the same. And they're going to kind of meet in the middle. The big toes are going to try to meet in the middle.
Okay.
Pretty far internally rotated. Okay. Now, put the arms in front of you, draw the hips back, and make sure you can feel those hip joints moving in towards each other just a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, that should challenge. The lower back is going to get tight. So I want you to bring your arms more down to like belly button level so you're not working so hard. Even lower. Even lower. Bring your fingertips together so you close the kinetic chain at the upper body. Cool. Now, breathe into the back of the ribs to the best of your ability and bring those knees. Don't squeeze the knees, but rotate them towards each other from the hips.
Should my feet be like this or like?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the feet are inward. It should be getting very difficult. You've been holding it for a little bit now. You should feel the medial hamstrings working harder than just about anything else.
I feel medial hamstrings. I don't know what that is.
Medial hamstring is like the groin muscles on the back of the leg.
Okay, I feel that. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now press the big toe joint into the ground and you'll feel those increase a little bit.
Okay, yeah. And my lower back.
Yeah, hang on to that. Now you're going to use those. Keep the big toe joints inward. Keep the knees rolling inward as you slowly come out of the pose. Pressing, like using the hips to lever the chest up. Exactly. Do you feel how you used the inside of the legs to pull your hips up?
Yes. Yes.
See if you can reverse engineer that and pull back into that same pose with those same muscles.
The whole inside, from my groin down to my ankle, I feel that all the way down.
Good.
Okay.
Good. And not in a painful way, yeah.
No, in a nice way.
Like the groin, like the muscles are trying to pull.
Using it, yeah.
That's what we call, that's our second principle. The first principle of foundation training is decompression breathing. The second one is pelvic anchoring. And what it feels like is the arch is being lifted by the pelvis.
Okay.
See if you can feel that.
I feel here outside, lower back.
Yeah.
And then I feel down the line of the inside of my thighs, where I feel it down the line straight to the heel, to the big toe.
Great. Perfect. Hang on to that. As your arms come forward, the hips will draw back, and you're gonna tug that line a little bit tighter, pulling the inward leg tighter and tighter as you pull the hips back. That's the tug of war we're looking for with sciatica. This is the last little thing we'll do here. Sure. I'll show you what it feels like after. Okay. So I'm going to review real quick. Yeah. 3 points of contact on the foot. Okay. Ball joint to the big toe, pinky toe, and heel.
Okay.
Spread them apart and keep that big toe really locked in.
Okay.
That should be pulling the knees inward towards each other, like they're trying to look at each other just a little bit. Same with the hip joints.
Oh, doing that with my knees brings my hips out.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's the goal of this whole exercise, is to eccentrically expand the tissue at the back of the hips.
Okay.
Okay. So now as you draw, now keep that in mind as you're pulling your hips back and your arms forward. Think of that tissue getting longer at the back of the hips as they work harder at the center of the legs. Exactly.
And then feet in.
Yeah. So just feel what it feels like. It should feel pretty clean, pretty fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And the SI joint should feel like it's protected.
Yeah, it does.
You feel the difference in it?
I feel that all of the muscles around it are working, but it doesn't have any pressure on it.
Exactly. So that's what foundation training feels like when you're doing it well.
Wow.
It feels like the entire joint is protected by the muscles that surround it, and they're doing all of the work as they should. So your practice in that stance is an isometric, where you counterbalance the hips and the hands away from each other. And then you hold, you'll find a little shaky spot that you can hold for about 20, 30 seconds. And you hold that for 20, 30 seconds. And that's the reminder of how your body works, of what it does, of how that joint is meant to be protected.
Wow. I think I've been doing this not wrong, but not efficiently. I mean,
well, you're in Santa Cruz, so I could send you to a couple of really good instructors out there if you want.
Okay, please. Yeah.
We have some solid instructors in that area.
Okay.
The difference of doing this work well and not is very different. I've been working on the same poses for 10 years and, wow. And they work pretty well a lot of the time, but you got to practice them frequently. And that was enough where that'll give you like kind of the initial inkling into how you're going to fix your SI joint ultimately.
Right.
And just standing, but don't even pay attention to it. And then in like 5-10 minutes, we'll check in. We'll see how it's feeling, Right. And it's not a quick fix. It's like it gives you the sensation of feeling better, and it tells you what to follow and what to push into and push into and push into. And it's the repetition and the intent that will ultimately fix your SI joint or protect it properly.
When I stand, so like I have to wear shoes to do podcasts because my back hurts if I don't wear shoes, and I have to sit on an exercise ball and like alternate desk every half hour. Do you think I should stand in that same position with that stuff in mind as well?
I think you should get really good at like 3 or 4 of the poses, and then let your stance naturally evolve.
Okay.
And you will be able to very quickly and very easily stand barefoot for as long as you want to.
Wow.
You just have to do it right. You have to use your nobody's foot is strong enough to do that. It's the connections of the muscles above the foot that pull and participate and disperse force more evenly. That's what it's all about. Okay. It's nobody's individualized muscles are like super, super strong. Their muscle chains and their connection points are strong. That's what it does.
Man, I'm so excited. I feel like I just struck gold or something. I've been on this path.
Only if you practice, man. Only if you practice. I'm telling you, you can go work with 1 or 2 of our instructors out there, and in one session, you'll learn so much about SI joint dysfunction and your like the appropriate exercise approach to really manage it, not to kind of half-ass manage it, but to fix it for a good long time. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's what we do, man. We fix weird stuff with weird stuff.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I have some more questions here. I wrote down a bunch of stuff.
Got a couple, yeah.
Couple? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do the ones that will help the audience the most. So when I do foundation training every day, I get neck pain because all of this stuff.
You ain't doing it right, yeah.
I'm not doing it right. Okay.
Yeah, you're not doing it right. No. I'm not going to teach you that on here, but no.
Okay.
Your neck should never be like this. No, your neck should be long and protected, and the weight of your head should be taken out of the back of your neck and held at the front of the neck appropriately by bigger muscles.
Okay, I got to see a practitioner. Doing it always.
You got to read true to. Did you read True to Form?
Part of it.
You got to read True to Form. Just the section on decompression. It's like 5-6 pages, but that's that book is a very basic explanation of this entire theory.
Okay. What do you think? This will be the last question. What do you think about? I guess you already answered it. You think that these exercises should be done without shoes?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
We're born barefoot. Got to practice that, especially as you get older. That's why people fall. People fall because we're not used to wearing shoes. We're not. If we get used to wearing shoes, our feet don't get used to being reflexive. Give me 1 second. My kid is calling outside. Sure. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. What's your time frame?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, cool. Whatever you want, man. All good.
It's lunchtime very soon.
Yeah.
We have a 2-year-old, so it's much less about me these days, much more about Jen and Sunny, my wife and little girl.
Totally. Okay, well, is there anything you want to talk about? I'll edit all this out. But is there anything you want to talk about?
If people want to learn, I'd love it if they went on my streaming site and learned this. We have some pretty badass programs that we put together that walk people through every single day of learning this for like 112 days, really long. And then once you've learned that, you can go through all these other sports-specific programs and demographic-specific programs, much harder workouts. So stream.foundationtraining.com. It's $15 a month. It's the best possible way to learn this. And it's literally the library that I've been working on for 10 years now and continue to work on. We put new information out monthly on there, if not more frequently. So if people are serious, that's kind of the base level. You can use my YouTube videos. They're very informative, but I really, they're the minimum, the absolute minimum. The streaming site will take you a very long time to actually get through and learn, and it will give you years of knowledge. And if you really want the in-person, then come through a certification or something like that. Come through one of my courses or go work with one of our instructors. We have about a little over 1,000 around the world now. They're very good. Some of them are incredible. Wow. And we certify, we add about 150 a year, 150 instructors a year, but I'm probably going to take a couple of years off of that and really nurture the existing community and see if we can build up their level for a little while.
Oh. When is your next class that you personally teach?
I teach all of them.
You teach in Ohio?
In Santa Barbara. We have a November class in well, I'm actually going to London in September. We have a course in London in September, the 13th through 15th. And then our next course is in the end of November in Santa Barbara. We have a level 2 course in December in Santa Barbara. And then I'm debating starting my year or two off of certifications in 2020 so that we have some incredible programs that are coming out. We have a very large number of certified instructors now that we need to make sure they're all good and they're solid. I've been doing this longer than anybody, and I've only been doing this for 10 years, and I'm 38 years old. So we don't want to just jump in and just go that route without thinking about it. So we're going to take a little time. We've been certifying people for 7 years now, or for 6 years now. And it's like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's give it at least 6 months or so and really make sure we're doing the right thing with this work.
So if you could summarize what foundation training is in like 2 or 3 sentences to the layman without using any big words or big muscle word, like, most people don't even know what the muscles are, including myself.
Yeah.
What is foundation training?
It's probably the most effective way for an active person to get better with chronic pain. It's not for sedentary people unless they're really going to change their life and do the work. But it's basically body weight exercises that take into account we have to be able to move our hips well, and we have to be able to move our rib cage well. And then most back pain and hip pain and neck pain and shoulder pain and foot pain and all that stuff comes from that area being restricted and rigid. So we teach you how to make it a lot stronger very quickly.
I lost you for a second. You teach me how to teach.
Yeah, this is it's freezing on this end.
Yeah. How is it now?
It's clean now. Yeah.
Okay, you said you teach people how to make it a lot stronger. Is that all you said?
Yeah, we teach you how to make your muscles. We teach you how to make those fundamental movements. Hip hinging, hip range of motion, rib cage, rib range of motion, making sure you're breathing very powerfully and well. We make those motions extremely powerful. We make them a very central focus of all of your exercise and all of the effort you put into health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Alrighty, well, stream.foundationtraining.com. I'll post a link in the info description. Everybody check it out. I've been doing it for a while. Clearly not
true to form. I worked really hard. I've devoted my entire career to these books and these the very few lessons that I put a lot of effort into those few lessons. So, please read either True to Form or Foundation, the 2 books that I've published, and those are very important to us over here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.